Hello CS112. Today I'll be going over a quick solution to Lab 9, which had to do with functions, which you guys should have all been masters of by now. So essentially what you guys needed to do is create a function called phrase that, when given a name, would return a string of what Kiro thinks about that name. I already typed up these predefined lists, which you should have done because it gave the options right here of what they could be. So just make each of these a list where each adjective, noun, and complement represents an element. And yeah, let's just dive right into it. So now these were supposed to be randomly generated, so let's just pick an index from each of these lists, and I've already imported random. Now you should always import, have all your imports at the top of your code file. That's just like good practice. Anyways, so it gave you a line of code again, so I'm just going to copy this for you. I'm going to Control-C it here. I'm going to change the names of it though, just so it's a little more, makes a little more sense to us, because we do need to call it 3 times because we want a random index from each of these guys. So I'm going to have one adjective index, one noun index, and lastly one complement index. And then I'm also going to need to change the length of it. So let's change it to adjective, let's change this to noun, and let's change this to complement. So now the very last thing we need to do was to create a phrase. So let's, I'm just going to copy and paste the little what phrase equals here. Okay, so I've gotten what phrase equals. Now I just need to create the phrase. So I'm going to say phrase equals, and it does give you an example down here. So we need to include also the string Kiro thinks. So I'm going to say Kiro thinks, if I can type, Kiro thinks, and then I'm going to use the parameter name that's passed through the function signature. So name, and then and then I need to call a random adjective, so I'm going to be using adjective with the index adjective index. So adjective index, and same with the noun. So noun index, and lastly same with the complements. Complements comp index. And so now that string is equal to phrase, and I would like to return phrase. So now it's very, I've already created some test cases down here, but just in case you guys were getting some errors with these, it's important that you call your test cases after the function is defined, because when you first run your Python file, the interpreter will read line 1, then 2, then 3, so on and so forth. It will get to line 5 and then skip all the way to line 22, so on and so forth. This is because it won't actually enter this block of code unless it's called. And if you try having your function calls, like if you had these guys above the actual function, it will be undefined because it is read from top to bottom. So if you call phrase before it's defined, you'll get that error. Another thing is, I'm not just calling phrase with a name, I am printing phrase with a name. What this does is actually displays the return value. The return value will always be associated with the function call, but if you want it displayed to your terminal, you need to print the function call to get its return value. So now let's just save this file and run this bad boy a couple times. I do have 3 different function calls here just so we can test it multiple times with each thing. So Kiro thinks Mario is a wonderful blah blah blah. Let's run it a couple more times. As you can see, these are all generally Kiro thinks is a sparkly. So the last 2 came out scarily similar, but as you can see, it's a bit more different above. Let's just run it one more time. That really threw me off real quick. Yeah, so as you can see, it's completely random, quote unquote random, because it's not actually completely random. But yeah, it was a pretty straightforward assignment. I feel like you guys should have gotten this pretty easily with your experience thus far. If you have any questions, let me know down below.